Hey everyone! I know we're all so excited about the Rose Noir mystery box and the new pink lemonade cutie that Cricut released today, but I want to talk about what's in the box. So one of the most asked about materials is the Mosaic iron-on because a lot of people are like, what do I do with this? It is a little bit different to use and work with, but I'm going to give you guys some tips about that today. But I'm also going to talk to you about how you should be using more like solid images. I did a tutorial previously using a smiley face, those kind of things, and Cricut does recommend at least a 3-inch image. You do want to keep it a little bit more solid and simple. Well, I have a tank top to make for my nephew, and I'm going to use a soccer ball. So I'm going to go to images. Now I'm going to browse all images, but I've already bookmarked some soccer balls that I like. So I'm just going to filter to my bookmarked to easily pull them up. So I've got two options here, this one and this one. I'm going to go with this one for a very specific reason that I'm going to show you. So in the box you got a sheet of black, a sheet of silver, and a sheet of gold. But Cricut also makes white mosaic iron-on, and I have some of that on hand. So what I'm going to do is make this a two-tone image. I'm going to cut the white mosaic and the black mosaic. Now, I don't keep my grid lines on, but if you go to this little empty square between the coordinates here and click it, it will turn your grid lines on. So now you can see here all these grid lines are showing in this image, and that's because there's no white layer here. Now we can also check our layers panel. We can see nothing's grouped, it's just a single layer image, but I want to make that a 2-layer image because I want that white layer for the mosaic. So what I'm going to do is click on this and I'm going to duplicate it. Now I don't need to size this for my shirt yet because that doesn't really matter yet. So you can keep it, and honestly a lot of times I like to work with it a little bit bigger when I'm contouring, which is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to click both images. I'm going to align and center. That aligns them and centers them perfectly horizontally and vertically. Now in my layers panel I'm going to make this bottom layer black, and we're going to keep that as is. We're not doing any layering here. We are layering, but we're not layering on top of each other. So that black layer is good. Now we're going to take the other layer and we're going to click I'm actually going to change it to white first. I like to do this because I find it easier to visualize everything as it's happening if it's already in the color I need it to be. So now I'm going to click contour. Now something to keep in mind with contour is that it only works with basic cut images and writing images. It's not going to work with print then cut. So if you're like, hey, I click contour, it's not highlighting, or contour's not highlighting, that's why. So what you're going to do up here is you can either click what you want here, over here, hide all contours. I know that I just want to remove the back and leave these shapes on the inside. So if I just click this, it removes that back, and you can see here I've got my 2 layers. So now what I can do is I'm just going to click undo or Control Z on my keyboard, and I'm going to highlight them together and I'm going to group them. Now what I'm going to do is measure my shirt, and it's going to I'm going to just measure how big I want my design. So I'm going to go about 4 inches wide, and this is a perfect circle as you can see here. So 4 inches. And I'm going to save this as the Rose Noir mystery box tutorial. Oh, I didn't. There we go. I always recommend saving all of your projects, especially before you go to cut. So I always do that first. And now I'm going to click make. I am using my Joy Extra today, so it's already set correctly. And I'm going to choose on a mat. and confirm. Now, because I'm using the same material, I can cut them on the same mat. So typically what I do is whatever mat's first, I'll just leave this here, mirror it, and then I can put the black layer starting at like 4 inches. So what I do is I move it here. I'm going to also mirror it before I move it. Make sure that, okay. And then I'm going to click these 3 dots, move object, and click the white mat and confirm. And that's going to put them on the same mat. So now my cuts are about 4. This one's about 4 by 4. This one's a little over 4 by a little over 4. So I'm going to cut my material down and place it on the mat. So I'm going to click continue. It's going to find my Joy Extra. I'm already on, it's already connected via Bluetooth, so I don't have to worry about that. It's going to pick it up, and then I'm going to search for my material. And an easy way to do it, so browse all materials, I'm just going to click Mosaic in here, and Everyday Iron On Mosaic is what I'm looking for. And then I'm going to click done. Now I confirm over here that mirror is on. It's going to tell you make sure it's on. So I'm going to confirm over here that it's on, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut my materials down to size, put them on my mat, and then we'll go to my overhead. Okay guys, so a few things I want to go over. First and foremost, I have no idea how this is going to look after it's cut. I do tend to stick with single images, like I said, like the smiley face. So this may not come out the way I'm hoping, but I just think this would have a really cool effect if it works out. So if it doesn't, it doesn't, and we're going to experiment. Okay, so now this is going shiny side down. So you can see when you turn it over, this is the shiny side, this side's more dull. So it is going shiny side down. So make sure it's correct on your mat. And I'm going to show you guys, I just use this safety ruler because in general I use it. So I used this to measure the width. So I didn't go all the way from here to here. We don't want the design too big, so I usually kind of set it in a bit, and that's how I came up with that 4 inches. So we're going from like here to here. So with that said, I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to load my mat to cut. Now, if you don't have a Joy or a Joy Extra, it is an auto feed. So once I kind of put the mat in here, let's see, I'm trying not to hit my tripod. So once we put it in, it's going to grab it like that, and it's going to auto load it. It's measuring it right now, and then it's going to let me know it's lining it up, making sure it's good. Now there are no buttons on the machine, so I'm going to go back to Design Space and I'll click go. And then when it's done cutting, I'll unload the mat by going back to Design Space and pushing the unload button. Now, a few things I want to talk about while this is cutting. The Mosaic iron-on has a few carrier sheets to it. So I know that you're looking at this and you're like, oh my gosh, do I have to peel off every square? Nope, you don't. There is a liner here that you can pull up, and it's going to pull everything up at once. That's really cool. It makes it so much easier to weed. And then when you turn it over and press it, you're going to press it, and then there's a carrier sheet you peel, but then there's a second carrier sheet that you also peel. So it's kind of a weird way, and it's really different than normal iron-on. So I wanted to do this to go through that process with you. All right, so this is done. I'll click unload for my mat. And then I'm going to click done in Design Space because I'm done with it. Okay, I'm just going to close my machine and set it back because I am done with that for right now. I'm going to flip my mat over and peel my materials off of it. This is how I always take all my materials off the mat. And then I am going to put my mat cover back on it right away. I have cats and a dog, so I always put it right back on to make sure that I don't get anything on it and it stays nice and sticky for as long as I can get it to stay. I use this weeding tip. It is from the True Control knife blade weeding kit. It's my favorite. And I'm going to use my Bright 360 for this just because it's going to really help me see those cut lines. So I don't know if you guys can see, can you see those cut lines right here? It's so much easier to see it with that. Now I'm going to quickly grab my phone too. I'm going to use my Easy Press Mini, and I'm going to start heating that up while I'm weeding because this isn't going to take super long, and that way it will be ready to go. So I'm going to slide over and click Easy Press Mini. I'm in the heat guide, and then I'm going to click Mosaic Iron On, and then I'm looking in this shirt to see if I can find a tag. But I think this is the only one I have. I believe this is, yeah, it's 100% cotton. That's what I thought. So that's what I wanted to check. Okay, so quickly I'll show you guys the heat guide if you haven't used it before. I use it for everything when I use my Cricut presses. So just click apply. So we're medium heat, preheat for 5 seconds, 25 seconds, constant movement, firm pressure, flip and press for 15 seconds. Then it's telling you remove the first liner while still warm to the touch, but not hot, and then allow to cool completely before removing the second liner. I'm going to leave that up in case I forget anything, but I'm going to set that to medium for now. Something else that I wanted to mention that I always use is Teflon. You can use a Teflon sheet or parchment paper. I typically use Teflon, and I have a couple, like, they're reusable, so I've cut down a few for smaller things like this so you don't have a huge sheet. Okay, so we're going to start with this. Now I'm going to go into here and see how this is just peeling up as one piece. Right, so I didn't have to peel all those squares off. Typically when I weed, I do start on the inside pieces like this. I'm trying to find a good angle to grab this at. But usually I start on the inside pieces like this, and then I remove the outside pieces. And the reason I do this is because typically if like I'm working with text or anything like that, any of those small little pieces that are going to, like, say the inside of an A or an O, if you have smaller letters and like that piece falls onto the outside of your carrier sheet and you don't notice it, it's going to press onto your shirt or your blank too. So I try to do all of these inside pieces first, and that way if anything does fall on it, I have time to remove it and it's not getting pressed on my blank. And then if I do have any issues, I can just grab it off. So now I'll go ahead and do this and see all of this. I hope this comes out cool, guys. I feel like this is a really, in my head, this is a really cool concept and look for this soccer ball. So I'm hoping that that follows through. And now if you guys have never used the Easy Press Mini, it says constant movement. That's 25 seconds of constant movement in each area. So my Easy Press Mini is not going to cover this whole design at once, so I'm going to need to press it in sections, and 25 seconds for each section. You want to keep that in mind. That's really, really important for this design. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of work some of these angles, make sure I'm getting all of the carrier sheet off. And it's okay if you just move it around and, you know, whatever you need to do. And if this is left on there a little bit, that's okay. It's not going to affect your design unless you have, like, the mosaic on it. So I just want to make sure I get all the iron-on pieces off, because that I don't want additional ones. And I just realized I lost a whole block there. So I'm going to grab my scrap. Okay, so that's everything, and I'm going to pull that out. Okay, now I'm kind of glad this happened because I'm going to show you guys something, which I don't know how well you can see. Maybe if I put it in a darker background. But so you're going to get kind of cuts in your iron-on. So should this happen where you lose a piece like this, you can just kind of look at where it cut and line it back up. So that it's good. I'm going to hold it up like this because that's how I can best see it right now. Okay, so I'm good to go. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to figure out how these lined up because I moved it all around and now I don't know. Okay, so, alright, this looks like it's going to be pretty cool. Let's hope. Okay, so what we're going to do, remember we have to do a 5-second pre-press for our design. So I've got it, and I'm just going to 5 seconds in this whole area right here. Okay. Now because I'm layering, I'm not doing the complete 25 seconds for each layer to start. So what I'm going to do, and this has a little hair on it. Normally I lint roll. I do have my lint roller. Okay, so I always lint roll everything before I do it. And then, okay, so I'm going to lay this down how I want it. Okay, so I want it like this. So I'm just going to line it up. Guys, I think this is going to look cool. I'm really excited it's going to work out. You know, like sometimes when you're not sure if it's going to work out well and then it does. That is the best. All right, so I'm going to peel off my white layer, and what I'm going to do is stick it like this up on my Joy Extra. Okay, now I'm going to do this. Firm pressure. Now I'm going to do about 5 seconds per section for right now because I'm going to peel this up and lay that white down. And then I'm going to do the same with the white. I'll press it for about 5 seconds. And then I'm going to peel both of those carrier sheets off. And I'll put my Teflon down and I'll do the full 25 seconds from each section. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm getting the whole design. We don't want any pieces peeling up. Okay, so remember it says we have to wait to peel the first carrier sheet while it's warm, not hot. And then we're going to wait till it cools to pull the second carrier sheet. So I'm going to let this cool for like a minute. Probably not even, like 30 seconds, and then I'm going to peel it up, and then I'll come back with you guys to peel the second carrier sheet. Okay, so you guys can see that this carrier sheet right here is the big one that we had. And I'm peeling it off. I'm just going to toss it in the trash. And then, I don't know if you guys can see, I don't want to peel it yet because it's not quite cool, but can you guys see there is that second carrier sheet, and it's just around the mosaic. It's basically what we peeled off before, and you could see like it was still on there. So what I'm going to do, looks like it's cool enough. I'm going to peel this carefully just to make sure that everything's stuck down. I want to make sure I got all of the areas. Now, I probably would have been okay leaving this on when pressing the white since nothing is overlapping, but I have had a time or 2 or 5 or 10 where I have accidentally overlapped carrier sheets and pressed a design onto the carrier sheet instead of my shirt, and that stinks. I gotta tell you. So I prefer to not take my chances on it. Alright, now this may not be... Now this HB to shrink a little when heated, so it looks... I thought I didn't press it long enough, but... I mean, I didn't press it too long, but I may have. And it shrunk up a little bit. But let's see if we can get it to fit in here how I want it. Yep. Alright, so this is good. I'm going to move this a little bit more. You can kind of pull like your shirt material a little bit to kind of work it how you want it. Alright, so it does look like we have a little bit of a gap in one place, but I'm okay with that. This actually is looking really cool. I'm looking at it on my screen and it looks way better. Okay, so again, we're going to do about 5 seconds per section here. Make sure each part is down. Then we'll peel warm that top carrier sheet, and then we will peel cold that other carrier sheet, and then we'll come back, put our Teflon on, and do 25 seconds for the whole design, just to make sure that it's down and it's secure. You want to make sure it's good so that when you wash it, you don't have any issues. Now this is going to my nephew, so I can ask my sister-in-law how it's held up in the wash. But I have washed the Mosaic iron on before and it's done well, but I don't think I did it with the mini press, so that can make a difference if you're not careful. Alright, so I'm going to let this get warm, and then I'm going to peel both carrier sheets off camera, since I already showed you guys how that's done, and then we'll come back and do a final press. Okay guys, so I peeled both carrier sheets. This is looking really, really, really cool. Alright, so now what we're going to do is just put our Teflon back down, and we'll do 25 seconds per section and make sure that's fully adhered. But you guys can see it, and I mean, it's already, you know, pressed on there. I will show you guys my little boo-boo, which I didn't realize until after. Remember when I said it's okay if, you know, you don't get all that carrier sheet off, as long as you get the, like that, when you're weeding it, as long as you get the iron-on off? Well, I missed a spot, and you guys can see it right here. It's part of the black. You can see I did it, but it was already down and there was no way I was going to get it up, so it is what it is. But it's just for my nephew, so he's not going to notice. And honestly, I don't think anybody would, except if they're a crafter and they happen to see it. And don't forget, we do have to flip this from the back and press for 15 seconds, but I'm going to do that all off camera, since you guys really don't need to see all that. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm just going to show you the finished product. Gosh, it is so cute. Alright guys, if you have any questions, please let me know.